Some people don't want to center their lives around a sexual or romantic relationship, but it's almost like you have to do that to be an adult or to be in a real relationship. And we're finding that there's a lot of people who, sure, they may want sex, they may want romance, but they don't want it to be the cornerstone of everything else.
We hope you'll enjoy this episode with Dr. Eli Sheff, sociologist and one of the foremost academic experts on polyamorous families. Today, we talk about what are people Googling about consensual non-monogamy. Google searches have skyrocketed. And so we want to know, what are people Googling? And let's hear the answers from an actual expert in consensual non-monogamy. And then we also talk about Dr. Eli Sheff's academic career and common questions that people have about polyamory. So we're really excited for you to listen to this episode. We hope you'll love it. Welcome to Sexology Lab. Each week, we speak with the most compelling minds in modern sexology to ask the questions shaping the future of desire, connection, and human wellness. Let's dive in. Welcome, Dr. Eli Sheff.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today.
We're so excited to have you as a guest today. I want to start out with a fun question for you. So, what is something that most people would be surprised to learn about you?
You know, my undergraduate degree is in African dance.
Wow. Okay, that is surprising.
I'm a really good dancer, but I never anticipated doing it professionally. I certainly don't have the physique of a professional dancer. I'm strong, but I'm not slim. Nothing on me has ever been slim or slender. I never intended to be a professional dancer, but I can dance at festivals and things. It's really fun.
That is so cool. Okay, well, I'm surprised. I never knew that about you. So what a fun fact. If you could tell us a little bit about the Bonding Project. What is that?
The Bonding Project is a free relationship test online that I developed with my colleague, Jess Wise. And it helps people consider all the different ways there are to bond and how they might feel most comfortable in that moment and potentially across time. We assume that people's bonding needs shift and change over time depending on how old they are and what stage of life they're in and how they're feeling about themselves or what kinds of options they perceive. I think for some people it's very stable and they have a certain kind of bonding they really prefer. And I think for others, it's quite fluid. And it's so interesting to see how people kind of figure out, especially what happens if they want to bond a specific way and their beloved partner maybe has other desires to bond in a different way. Let's say one person wants to bond one-to-one and they're very focused on exclusive relationships.
Yeah.
But they have another partner who wants to bond one to many or many to many, that they're more interested in non-monogamous relationships. And that can be a big challenge to work out. And the Bonding Project helps people depersonalize it a little bit. I mean, your results are personal, but if you're thinking about, for instance, oh, this archetype, the lighthouse or something, might get along well with the gardener, is a different archetype. And it's not so personal of, oh, you're doing this to me. It's like a step removed where you can talk about this bonding style has these kinds of preferences.
Yeah.
And take the heat down a little bit in mixed orientation relationship discussions. Or maybe you and your partner have exactly the same bonding style and lucky you.
Oh, this is so exciting. So who is this for? Is it for people who are only interested in consensual non-monogamy? Is it for everyone? Who is it for?
It's for everyone. I think it's especially useful for people at transition point, either people who are dating and looking for relationships and haven't necessarily found exactly what they want, but they're wondering, who exactly do I want and what kind of relationship fits best for me? It's great for young people who are just figuring out what kind of relationships might suit them. It's really good for people who have been in long-term relationships together and they've changed over time and they're trying to figure out who are we to each other now. It's great for people who have gotten out of a relationship recently and are wondering, okay, I'm not that person anymore, and I'm not with that person anymore. So who am I now, and what do I want moving forward? If people are really comfortable and set where they are, they might not be that interested in it. But for anybody who's at kind of a turning point or an exploration point, it's really incredibly useful and non-judgmental. It
Mhm.
assumes all people's valid desires for relationship. It does work best for people who want romantic relationships. There is an aromantic path that
Okay.
if you say, I'm not interested in romance at all, then it takes you down a different path. But that path is more qualitative questions of, can you tell us more about
Mm.
why don't you want romance? How else do you get your needs met? Just because aromantic relationships are under researched and not as well known, when it gives you an archetype, they are romantic bonding archetypes. So we don't have aromantic bonding archetypes yet
Mm.
because we just don't have enough data around that. But we built the archetypes from, we've had over 10,000 people take the tests over time. We've
Wow.
been working on it for a long time. And
Yeah.
so we built the archetypes out of their responses, looking at 2,000 people said this response, and they all said this same thing that they're looking for. So
Yeah.
that becomes that archetype.
Yeah. So, what inspired you and your colleague to create this? This sounds amazing.
You know, it was Jess who came up with the idea. She had been dating around for a long time and was tired of having the same conversation. It was always, well, I'm looking for companionship, but I don't want a relationship. And when she would dig into what that meant, what she figured out was they meant they don't want an exclusive relationship with the expectations attached, like the
Mm.
relationship escalator. They don't want the thing at the top of the relationship escalator with, I expect to move in with you. I expect us to get married. I expect us to have children. I expect us to blend our finances, all of these expectations. And what she was finding was that people did want relationships. They just didn't want that one kind. So she was like, I wish I
Mm.
just had a test that I
Yeah.
could give people to say, you say you don't want a relationship. Do you actually mean you don't want any relationship at all? Or do you not want this peak of the relationship escalator
Yeah.
relationship? That was probably 10 years ago. We talked about it, we developed it. Really, not much happened with it, just the two of us. We're idea people and we tried to implement it, but we didn't have the technological skills. And then the pandemic lockdown hit, and we were like, hey, we could use some help. So we invited two other people, and that just really shifted the whole project. And they worked with us for a while, and both of them have left the project since then. But it helped us get over this hump of from idea to actual thing. And now it's in its third iteration. We've done some pilot testing and revamping, and then we tested that and revamped it again. And so now we're really happy with the results. And other people, when they read their archetypes, they're really happy
Yeah.
with hearing all of the various results and they feel like it fits really well for them. So that's exciting.
And I love this. Having this framework can really help people identify what they're looking for in a partner or in that relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people's relationships can look all sorts of different ways. That's been one of the really interesting things. If we've gotten some amazing data from this and the true diversity of what people actually want. And for some of them, how they are managing their lives. We also ask questions about what's your ideal relationship and what kind of relationship do you have, if any? And if it's not the same, what's keeping you from having that? And we're hearing a lot of people are still nervous about stigma and judgment from other people if they, for instance, don't want the kind of sexual relationship that comes with a lot of expectations
Mhm.
around not only exclusivity, but how that will then become the center of your life. And some people don't want to center their lives around a sexual or romantic
Ah.
relationship, but it's almost like you have to do that to be an adult or to be in a real relationship. And we're finding that there's a lot of people who, sure, they may want sex, they may want romance, but they don't want it to be the cornerstone of everything else. Maybe they're really involved in their career. Maybe they
Yeah.
get a lot of their needs met through their friendships.
Hmm.
Maybe they want to travel and they don't want to have someone being like, what time are you going to be home? There's just so much diversity and fluidity. And to finally have someone say, you know what, that's okay. That's a real kind of relationship. And other people want that too. and you can find each other. Just
Yeah.
help flag by saying, hey, I'm a gardener, or I'm a lighthouse, or I'm a satellite, or all sorts of exciting
Yes.
names.
Yeah. And so who can take this test? Is it open to anyone?
It is open to anyone. It's at bondingproject.com and the results are free. We are developing paid results right now, where right now you get an archetype. And if you are in the middle on a whole bunch of questions, so you can say you really strongly agree with that, you really strongly disagree, or that you kind of lean in one direction or the other. And if you're
Mhm.
leaning and not having strong feelings about it, sometimes the archetypes don't fit quite as well as if you're like, yes, this is who I am. So when we got that feedback, we decided, well, that takes more human interaction. So we're going
Yeah.
to actually need to charge for those results, those more personalized results that look
Sure.
at all those questions and develop something more personalized. And we're starting to work on partner comparison. So for instance, let's say
Mm.
you've got 5 people in a polycule
Yeah.
and you're thinking about maybe we should live together or something. How do we sustain our polycule over time? To look at, okay, we've got 3 people who really value connection and 2 people who really value
Mm.
independence. Those can totally go together as long as you know the differences and can clarify your expectations and can communicate about how do we do this so that everyone's needs get met in a way that you independent people, you've got enough freedom, and you
Yeah.
connection people have enough togetherness that everybody is doing okay.
That is so cool. I can even see people putting this link on their dating profile and being like, hey, I'm a gardener. If you're curious to what you are, go ahead and take this and then come back and let me know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are you curious about sexology? Do you want to further integrate sexology into your work or your life? Well, friends, then we've got something just for you. It's called the Sexology Practice Guide, and it walks you through the ways this shows up in your work, in your life, and guides you through working within your scope, incorporating intimacy and sexual health into your work without starting over. Download this short, practical guide at sexologylab.com/guide. That's sexologylab.com/guide. And while you're here, make sure to subscribe and share. And now, back to the show.
I was curious because I've heard that Google searches for polyamory are skyrocketing. I figured out what people are searching and I figured we would ask an expert. So I've got a few questions for you based on what are people searching on Google. For someone brand new to this world, what's the simplest way to explain the difference between polyamory, an open relationship, and consensual non-monogamy?
I would say consensual non-monogamy is the broadest umbrella category that just means people have negotiated and talked about and decided on a relationship that allows them to have multiple lovers. Then open relationships are pretty much the same thing as consensual non-monogamy. It's negotiated, they've decided they don't want monogamy. They want an open relationship, but it doesn't give a lot of specifics about what kind of open relationship or what that means. Polyamory would fall under both of those categories of consensual non-monogamy and open relationships, only it's much more specific. There's a lot more information that comes with it. So with polyamory comes the assumption of emotional intimacy as well as potential sexual intimacy. Not even necessarily always sexual intimacy. Some people
Yeah.
will have emotionally intimate relationships that don't necessarily include sex, or maybe not the kind of sex that people, maybe not intercourse or
Yeah.
something, but might include snuggling or cuddling or flirting or, a wide range of various things that can be included under relationships. Polyamory also implies people are open to long-term and or ongoing relationships. Not that every single relationship must be a long-term or ongoing relationship, but that's a potential in that environment. While there's no set rules in polyamory, there is kind of a wider community sentiment that de-emphasizes couples within polyamory and kind of has a stronger emphasis on a group feeling of greater equality. So some
Yeah.
forms of consensual non-monogamy or open relationships strongly emphasize the couple as a unit. For instance, swinging
Yeah.
is very focused on a couple that is almost always a female male, a heterosexual appearing couple
Hmm.
under swinging. For polyamory, there's no assumption that everybody needs to be straight, and there's no assumption that the couple is the primary thing and that everybody else is secondary or less important or should have to go away if the couple feels threatened.
Mm.
I'm not saying that isn't active in some polyamorous relationships. There certainly are primary and secondary relationships, but the community as a whole, especially in the United States, has some feelings of discomfort when people prioritize the original couple at the expense of other people, and they call that
Yeah.
couples privilege. That idea of the couple shouldn't sacrifice other people for their own well-being, that is not present in swinging. In
Mhm.
swinging, it is all about the couple and that nothing should damage or threaten the couple, that the couple itself are not only the main event for each other, but really emotionally exclusive in a
Yeah.
way that polyamory does not assume emotional exclusivity.
Well, thank you for clarifying all of those. I know, like, you can
Sure.
really get into the weeds here. The next biggest question that people seem to have is, how do you know if polyamory is actually right for you versus just being kind of curious about it?
That's a tough one because how do you know if anything is right for
Yeah.
you? For some people, they have to try it and see. For other people, they know right away that it is very much not for them. They hear about it and they just have this clutching feeling in their chest. They're like, oh, that sounds terrible. I would hate that. For people who have that reaction, I think it's worth listening to that. I certainly had that reaction when I
Yeah.
very first heard about polyamory, and I could not tell, is this because society says monogamy is the only real way to be, and hearing about this, well, I didn't know the word when my partner first brought it up in the early 90s. The word polyamory wasn't as common then. But when he brought it up, I definitely had that clutching feeling of, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And this, does that mean I'm too fat? Does that mean I'm bad in bed? You know, this very much this feeling of, is there something wrong with me that you need multiple partners?
Yeah.
And I think that feeling is worth listening to. That's a very monogamous or exclusive oriented reaction to hearing polyamory as an option. For other people, hearing about polyamory gives them a feeling of relief and freedom. It's like, finally, I can stop pretending that monogamy feels comfortable to me or that cheating is the only other way. And for those folks, it can be this huge sense of finally finding a real home where they can relax, finally, and feel authentic. Some people will have, those are pretty strong reactions. It's the
Yeah.
people in the middle who are more like, open relationship. Really? I don't know about that. That could be good. It could be
Yeah.
terrible. So for those people, one of the things I would recommend is the bonding project that is designed
Ooh.
to help you
Yes.
figure that out. I would also suggest thinking about, how do you feel about your partner being with someone else? It's much easier for people to think, I could have multiple partners. I could have my main squeeze, and then I could have my fun side piece, and I could have this, and I could have that. It's easier to think of yourself with multiple partners than it is
Sure.
with your beloved having then multiple partners as well. And if you only want them for yourself and you can't tolerate your partner being with other people, then I don't think polyamory is a good choice for you.
Yeah.
Something that focuses more on the couple together is a better choice. If people want to have kind of a stronger couple relationship, but with some openness, some ability to play around with others, then group sex, I think, can be a good choice. Swinging can be a good choice. But if you really cannot tolerate the thought of your partner being with someone else and you only want that option for yourself, then I would say don't do an open relationship at all. In contemporary United States culture, at least, if one person has an open relationship, then really the same rules should apply for everyone. Really, the only people who are able to sustain a kind of disjointed relationship where one person gets multiple partners and the other partners do not are polygamists, who are generally in a religious or cultural structure that supports that kind. So the fundamentalist Mormon Latter-day Saints or Muslims, both of those have a religious structure that allow men multiple partners, but the women are not supposed to have multiple partners. Women outside of those two religious structures, if their male partner comes to them and says, I want to have an open relationship, but just for me, not for you, the women tend to be like, really? Well, good luck with that.
Which totally makes sense. I mean, that's kind of like the consent in consensual non-monogamy. It's like, hey, we're agreeing here that this is going to be beneficial for you. It's going to also be beneficial for me. And like, we have this understanding.
Right. And
Yeah.
the easier part is beneficial for me. Great. I get to have
Right.
love and sex and attention and affection, but it is much more difficult. Be like, okay, honey, you go ahead. You go off with that person and I'll be at home folding laundry or whatever. Or sometimes even people will make date nights so they're both out at the same time.
Yeah.
Or some people really like to have, especially if they're secure and oriented more towards introversion, it might be great for them to have their partner dating someone else and they get more time alone. Go off, have fun at that giant, loud concert with the giant crowds of people. I'm going to be here in the bathtub with a book, glass of wine, alone in the house, loving my solo time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up polygamy because that was my first exposure to any type of like multiple relationships, watching Sister Wives on TLC years ago. That was my first exposure. And I think maybe a lot of people can relate to that. When you hear polyamory, you associate it with polygamy and think they're the same thing, when in reality, they're very different things.
Very different.
Yeah.
Very different. Under polygamy, it's almost always polygyny, which is one husband with multiple wives. Hardly ever is it polyandry, one wife with multiple husbands. That takes some pretty specific cultural, economic, and environmental pressures that just don't happen as much across time. Whereas like across history, pretty much every society that we've been able to document, and by we, I mean sociologists, anthropologists, psychologists, political scientists, archaeologists, everyone looking at cultures across time, it appears that wealthy and powerful men have always been able to have multiple partners, kind of regardless of what the other social rules are for other people. And patriarchy and capitalism mean that women don't have as much wealth or power across time as men have, and that the multiple partnership seems to be really associated with that wealth and power. The fact that now women have, in the contemporary United States at least, have access to education. They've got access to paid work that they can decide what to do with their own money. They can control their fertility to varying degrees, lesser so than we used to be able to. They can choose their own partners. Those are the social requirements of polyamory. When women don't have access, if they can't choose their own partners, they can't work for pay, they can't get an education, that's when you tend to have more polygyny.
That completely makes sense and not surprising.
The Sexology Lab is powered by Sexual Health Alliance, the global leader in education and certification for sexology professionals. Since 2015, Shaw has trained thousands of therapists, coaches, educators, and healthcare professionals through industry-leading certification programs and events. Learn directly from the experts, participate in immersive learning experiences, and join the most connected global community in sexology. Learn more at sexualhealthalliance.com. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen. Links are in the description below.